Well, there's a big crowd expected in Youngstown, Ohio tonight as former President Trump joins Republican Senate candidate JD Vance at a rally. Want to bring you a live look at that event now, where the former president is expected to take the stage soon. And he is there to support JD Vance, who is in a tight race with his Democratic opponent, Congressman Tim Ryan. Nadine Grimley from our station, WKBN, joining us now live. Nadine, set the scene for us. What is it like there on the ground?
Well, Natasha, we're here at the Save America rally here in Youngstown, Ohio. I'm going to take a step out of the way so you can see the crowd behind me. There are several thousand people here at the Covelli Center in Youngstown waiting to see former President Donald Trump. He's expected to take the stage at any minute now. Now, this rally is really to energize Republican voters ahead of the November general election, with several Trump-endorsed candidates in key federal races taking the stage as guest speakers, including Ohio's Republican nominee for Senate JD Vance and Republican nominees for 3 House districts, Max Miller, Madison Giussiotto Gilbert, and J.R. Majowski. Now, live for NewsNation in Youngstown, I'm Nadine Grimley. Natasha?
Nadine, thank you. And I want to bring in Niall Stanage now, White House columnist from our partners at The Hill. Niall, it is great to see you as always. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks. Good to be here, Natasha.
Let us talk about Trump campaigning this evening. Are we seeing this interesting dance of sorts where on the one hand, Trump can be so energizing for his MAGA base, right? But for Republican candidates, how does his endorsement and his campaigning impact general election voters or moderate Republicans?
Yeah, it's a great question, Natasha, because that's a very complicated dynamic. There's no question that the former president's endorsement has helped a lot of these candidates win their primaries. That's true of JD Vance. It's true of Mehmet Oz, for whom the former president campaigned a couple of weeks ago. General elections tend to be a very different story. Mr. Trump's approval ratings with independent voters, with moderate voters, are pretty bad, generally speaking, regardless of how beloved he might be among his so-called MAGA base. Interestingly, the New York Times is out with a report just today, noting that neither JD Vance nor Mehmet Oz's campaign invited the president to come to their states. He simply decided he was going to do it. And I think that points to the complicated question or equation that these candidates face. Can Mr. Trump both help them win primaries and potentially help them lose general elections?
All right. Well, and Niall, we're going to be taking his speech when he steps on stage tonight. But in terms of what we're expecting, are we expecting Trump to weigh in on the migrant flights and the busing, or does that put too much of a spotlight on potential 2024 rivals like DeSantis?
So on one hand, you would think that this transportation of migrants is largely in line with the kind of attitude or approach the former president might take. But you make a good point in raising the fact that this has been proposed, or rather enacted, by 2 governors who could be potential rivals to Trump for the 2024 nomination in Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott. So I don't expect him to put an enormous spotlight on that for that very reason. I don't think he really has a great level of political interest in raising up people who might be challengers to him, particularly Governor DeSantis, who's widely seen as the most serious potential rival.
And Niall, do you think that the latest news with the special master this week was a victory for Trump, even though the DOJ is appealing? And why would it be a victory for the former president?
I do think it was a victory. Now, obviously, if it's overturned on appeal, that's a different story. But I think that the appointment of this special master was a victory. And I think the specifics of the appointment were also a victory. For example, the special master has until November the 30th to complete his work. That takes this probe beyond the midterm elections for a start. Mr. Trump could well have declared his candidacy for 2024 by that stage. But then there are other specific measures as well, like, for example, the judge in this case having rebuffed a government argument that documents marked as classified should not be reviewed. The judge has said, no, we want everything reviewed by the special master. That means it takes longer. That means that other elements of the probe by the government could be slowed. Overall, this is just a tamping down of the investigation. And I would imagine Mr. Trump and his legal team will have been very happy with that result. from a judge, of course, who was appointed by Mr. Trump during his presidency.
And Niall, I know the last time we were watching a speech from Mr. Trump, he kind of walked right up to that line of announcing his candidacy for 2024. He did not cross it. He did not make that announcement. With the shadow of the Mar-a-Lago investigation being what it is right now and the special master announcement, what is the likelihood you think that he will take tonight as an opportunity to announce?
I would be surprised if he chose to announce tonight. Now, he is notoriously unpredictable. He defies expectations in all kinds of ways. But it seems for now that he has heeded the advice of some people who have suggested he shouldn't declare before the midterms. The argument against doing that is that it complicates the picture for Republican candidates. If Republicans have a worse year than was expected a month or two ago, could Mr. Trump get the blame if by then he has declared his candidacy? I think it is more likely that he will walk right up to that line yet again tonight, Natasha, but I would be surprised if there's a crossing of the 2024 Rubicon from Youngstown.
I hear you. All right, Niall, I know you're sticking with us as we take his speech and will help us provide full analysis, so I will see you later on in the show. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
See you later.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.